Hi everyone, this is Claire at StudentRDH and Dental Toaster in Wake Up Memory. We are getting connected to students, faculty members all around the country and even in Canada. So I just want to welcome everybody for being here. What are we today? No, a Wednesday, right? I forgot my days already. I hope you guys are doing okay. I would love to know here in the chat, let's test it before we start our webinar, um, where you are from. Can you put in the chat where you are from? Which part of the country are you from? And are you a student or are you a faculty member? I would love to get to know you a little better. And I just wanted to see if I can help more, if I have a little bit more information about yourself. So I would love for you to put in the chat. Let's test this chat together. We have Susan, faculty at Wayne. We have Carrie, who is also a faculty in Oregon. Some name, I recognize that, yeah, I think some of you have been before to the other webinars, right? We have Kathy, faculty in Illinois. Nicole, you are from Malcolm X, your students, perfect. Kate, faculty in NCC, Pennsylvania. Kim, I definitely recognize a lot of names over here, faculty members that I talked to before. So thank you all for being here. So we have from Oregon to Nevada to Michigan to there are other parts of the country, Seattle. So many of you from many different parts of the country, and we might even have some Canadian students over here. Perfect. So thank you all for being here. I just wanted to share with you today how I'm going to start this webinar. And from Canada, yes, Natalia, you are a student at Niagara College. Perfect. So, I'm looking at the board examination and I'm just looking at what's happening right now. And what's happening right now is going to, it's the virus. And I do feel like it, everything that we learn in dentistry in your textbook, sometimes you feel like, oh, why did I have to learn that? At the end of the day, it is all related to what's happening right now, what we have to know. So I want to just tie it back to not just the board examination. Obviously, that's my specialty. That's what I'm going to talk today. But I want you to think about in the concept of just, dentistry. So we're going to look at a few different things that include immunology, that includes oral pathology, that includes vaccination, that includes also community or health, okay? And we have Naomi, who's from Georgian in Canada as well. It's really nice to have you from all over the places. So we're going to start in a few minutes. I want to know, guys, if you're a student, when is your national board examination? I know clinical is a big question mark up in the air right now, but if you're taking the national boards, I know the schedule has been postponed and postponed and postponed. Where are you at right now? Are you in August? Is that going to happen in September? Maybe you're first year, so you don't know yet. Amanda, you say June 15, New Jersey. Okay. June 15, finger crossed. And anybody else want to share when you're going to take it? I think all of this is important information for me, just because the more I know about you, the more I can provide information, okay? So Naomi, July 7th, and that is Canada, right? When you say July 7th, Ali, June 13th, okay. September in Oregon, June 2nd, okay. So we have a bit of a very mix over here, but it is from, June to September, and we're gonna do our best. So I'm gonna start this presentation because I want to make this time useful. Now, quick announcement for all of our faculty members here. If you wish to get continuing education credit in this section of general science, I can provide that to you. So if you are a faculty member, if you would like that, you can put that on the chat and I will be able to share you the link for that. So you can let me know if you wish to get your continuing education credit. It is going to be about an hour and a half today. And let me know again if you would like to have that, because I mean, maybe it is helpful for you. I'm sure you have tons of continuing education credits already. I just want to know what is okay. So it seems like it would be useful And some of you graduated in Venezuela. Okay, and you're pursuing dental hygiene license. That is awesome. So what I'm going to do here for our faculty members, I'm going to share with you right now already the link that you will use in order to get your continuing education credit. However, I will release the code at the end, okay? So you can take down, you can copy and paste the link already that I shared with you, but I'm going to give you the code at the very end, okay? So stick with me. Perfect. So just copy and paste this. You'll be able to just register, enter your email, your information to get your C credits. Now, guys, are we ready to start this? If so, say yes in the chat, and I know I can start. Yes, yes, yes. Perfect, guys.
Yes.
Are we ready? And I want to do this for you. Can you hear this? I just wanted to clap for you, all of you, for being here today on a Wednesday and participating in this webinar. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and you can let me know whether you can see it or not. Okay, here it is. Can you see my screen? If so, you can put yes, and we can start rolling. Perfect. Hey guys, so I want you to see this guy, this gem with some legs. What is this thing? Well, this is actually a representation of a virus, but you know what? They didn't, it's just not accurate. It's like drawing an elephant and it doesn't look like an elephant, So what you can see here, this is the head and then the legs. This is one type of virus. However, it is not there are 4 different types, and this is not exactly what's going on here. And also, I mean, what do you think about the spelling? Does that look correct to you, or is it wrong? Right? There's something wrong here with the spelling, right? So we're going to look at that to what is the virus name versus the disease name, and we're going to look at a few more things as well. So this is StudentRDH. I'm not here to sell you guys StudentRDH at all. I just want to show you, just in case you're interested, you can go on your own and see what reviews we have. But I'm going to start with you. So if you see here, there is a little video that I created with StudentRDH about session 1. So session 1 is when you have quick questions and answers. They call this like the general science session. How many questions are in session 1? Do you guys know? How many questions are there in session 1? Anybody want to take a guess here if we have students? How many questions are there in session 1? 100 to 25? Okay, I think I should give you the answer over here. So there are 200 questions in session 1, okay? So those 200 questions are, as you can see here, heterodox, okay? Or what about if you think about or pathology, saying there could be a description saying, okay, the lesion that looks like red borders outside, yellow inside is most likely going to be, or it could be a microbiology question, okay? So that is called the general session. Then there are 200 questions, and that is going to be for 3.5 hours, right? The thing that the NBT has done, NBDHE has done, or the especially in the United States, or it does not apply, guys, to you if you are a Canadian student, but they didn't make it easy. I wish it was like 100 question, 100 minute, but it's not. So it's 200 questions and 3.5 hours. Just note that. That is called session 1. Let's continue. So I want to show you what you can get in community oral health, though. In community, they have this thing that is called the testlet. A testlet is like a group of questions. So what you have here is basically a scenario, and the scenario has about 5 questions related to that. So it can ask you things like, okay, there's a facility here and you're doing this job as a dental professional, and the HP score is this and that. So that is called the community health testlet. Now, how many testlets are there in the national board examination? I'm talking about here Canada, in the US, but Canada also has a lot of community oral health questions. Anybody want to take a guess of how many testlets do we have? Like this whole testlet, how many do we have? And you guys can say anything you want. This is just a learning process, and there's no right or wrong. You're just taking a guess, and we can find out the answer together. Okay, so Valeska, you said 10, and that's actually pretty good. They are about 5 questions, 5 testlets, meaning that each testlet has 5 questions. At the end of the day, you have about 25 questions in community or health. Oops. In community or health, we have about 25 questions. So I want to do the math here with you, because I think it's really important to understand how much we have to study for each chapter, because I get this question all the time from students. So let's do 25 questions. I said that there were 200 questions, right? So if we did this math, what would that give us? And I'm going to do it very simply here on my phone. I'm not taking it out just to look at social media, but I would say 25 divided by, no. And that gives you about 12.5%. So historically, community or health have been around 15% of your entire session 1 examination. And I'm telling you this because we forget how important community is. It might not be the easiest chapter because it's a lot of shades of gray. It's not just black and white, right? It's not like immunology. So I want you to just understand that when you are going to the board examination, there's going to be questions, especially in community, that is going to be a lot of shades of gray. Now, this is what you have to do. Your job is to find the best answer. Best. Why? Because some answer choices, maybe in this case, this one and this one makes sense, but which one is the best? So I want you to just reshape how you think the questions. Instead of saying there's a right and wrong answer, there's best answer. Because if you think you can get the right answer, there's only one right answer. When you have this curveball that tells you what 2 of them actually are good answers, you're going to feel like they're tricking you. You're going to feel like they're trying to just do something so you fail the examination. But again, if you read the guideline, they say find the best answer. So go with that mentality, okay? Let's say you were looking for shoes, the red shoes, the sneakers, the heels, all of that are good choices, but which one is the best for this scenario? I think I was clear on that because I know I repeated that a lot of times, but I wanted you to understand community health is big and it can be very vague, very ambiguous, and I don't want you to feel stuck when that happens. Let's continue. Another section that you will see is this, session 2. It's called the case study session. Anybody know how many questions we will have in the case study? 150, Stephanie, bingo. 150 questions. Well, you're going to do that over 4 hours, right? And it looks something like that. And this is video from StudentRDH, our board examination review, because as you can understand, I cannot go there and take a video. But it looks very, very, very similar. You're going to have a patient chart, profile, photograph, and radiograph, and you're going to keep flipping through those in order to find the answer. Okay, so in this case, at the very end, what you can see is that there's an ulcer, and you're trying to understand, looking back at the patient chart, radiograph, and photograph, why that ulcer might have been there in the first place. Or in this scenario, you obviously some pictures with, I don't want to say the answer, but there's something we are concerned about that includes erosion. And then you have to go back to the case, to the patient profile and patient chart to understand what is the socioeconomic status, for example, and solve those problems. So there are 150 questions of them. Now, before I even get into our virus, I want to talk about case study for a little bit, because case studies, guys, is tough. Why? Number one, for psychological reason. This is at the end, this is the second portion of your examination, meaning you are tired already. You already went to 200 questions, and now you have to solve those complex case studies. This is for our American students. It's going to be just draining. I mean, Even if you're a faculty member, even me as a practitioner and as an educator, if I sit through classes the entire day, I'm just tired, right? So this is your afternoon portion. So no, just be mentally prepared for this, right? Drink some water, bring some snacks, do some jumping, put some blood flow again in your brain, and make sure, I know this is a big word that you don't want to see, or so glucose is, basically carb. Here it is, the word carb. I want you to eat carbs. The reason is because there are two things our brain survives on: carb and water. That's what it needs to survive. And it is proven scientifically that if you carbo load, I don't want you to go to that sleepy point, but if you give yourself enough fuel of carb, that is glucose, your brain can sustain for a longer period of times, and you will have a spike in energy. So that is not the day when you have to think about your nutrition. I want you to just eat a lot of carbs, honestly, and just drink a lot of water. The next day you can do whatever you want, but I just want to say that in case study because it is really, really challenging. Okay, now that said, any questions on the examination format? You can tell me here in the chat if you have some question. I would love to address them. Faculty members or students, I'm here just to answer anything that you have today, as long as I can provide the answer, or not, we can find the answer together, or there are a lot of other specialists or professors that I work with around the country that can probably help. So anybody have a question so far? If not, you can always come back to that, put a question in the chat, and I'll make sure to answer that as we go. So let's continue here. So here you can see that we are going to start our deep dive with the virus. Question, guys. Okay, in the 1300s, there was this thing that is called the Black Plague. What was that? Was that a virus or was that a bacteria that caused it? Was that a bacteria or a virus? Anybody want to put a answer in the chat? This is just a guess, guys. Don't try to think I have to be absolutely right or wrong. And it's just all guessing together. It just keeps our brain interested. Okay, so we have a lot of bacteria coming, some viruses. Okay, so the answer is this thing was called by a bacteria. I just wanted to say that because sometimes we get confused, right? Okay, but one more thing. 1918. They had this thing that is called the Spanish flu about 100 years ago. Was that a virus or a bacteria? We have a lot of virus coming in. Beth, Graham, Mary, Colette, Anna, Marie, perfect, Elena. This was a virus. Everybody, I think, can agree on this. So about 100 years ago, we had a virus that killed about 50 million people. Right now we have about 200,000 deaths. Can you imagine 50 million people? That's just an enormous amount of people that died, back in the 1980s. Now, things are better, things are different. I think our infection control to everything we do, washing our hands, is very, very different. But hey, this is 100 years ago, it killed that many people. So that is the virus. Now, when we talk about the virus, what is it though? What is it? So let's go a little bit about the review, because maybe we forgot what the virus is by definition. So a virus is part of microbiology. It's a part of the study of the very, very little things, and those include the algae, the bacteria, fungi, prions, protists, protozoa, and viruses. Okay, so it is among those. So the main focus here, though, I want to compare bacteria versus virus. So let's look at bacteria. It is the simplest creature to be alive. So it's its own living animal, the smallest possible that you can think of, that is alive. That is a keyword, guys, alive. So how it divides is this thing called binary fission. So if this was one bacteria turns into two turns into four. That is called the binary fission. That's how they recreate. They create baby bacteria. However, virus is completely different. You can't even really compare them because they're just completely different things. And a virus, you can't even say that it is alive because you know what it is? It's just like it's just some inscriptions that needs a host, and a host is you, me, animals, plants, and bacteria. Anything that is living is a host. It's a place for the virus to live, to reproduce. So let's look at the structure. So here you have two structures, the virus and the bacteria. If you look at the virus, see how simple it is. It's like, so this is the RNA or the DNA, but in our case with the coronavirus, it's an RNA. And what an RNA is, it's like a manual. For example, you bought a cookbook, that's a manual, right? I mean, I was really into baking cookies recently. I was looking all those recipes for cookies. The only problem that I have right now is that I can't find flour anywhere. Is this, anybody has the same problem right now? Like I go to the supermarket and it's been weeks since I've seen flour. I cannot buy flour anymore. So anyhow, you know, I was looking at recipes, and I just want to tell you that an RNA or DNA is like that. It's a book of tell you how to do things. It's like an IKEA manual. If you guys have ever put an IKEA piece of furniture together. And Holly and Professor Hope, thanks for being here. And you said you were able to get a small bag. Yeah, I just want to buy the normal flour. Okay, I don't want a coconut flour. I don't want like anything else. I don't want the paleo flour. I just want normal stuff. Amazon, oh, very interesting. Thank you, thank you. Anyhow, I had to stop my baking career. So let's continue here. So we have the cookbook, and outside, if you ordered Amazon, you have a package, right? Just a protective package. Well, that's it, guys. That is basically the virus. So it has things, the RNA, DNA inside, the inscriptions, and the outside, you have this thing that is called the envelope, and that's it. Compared to the virus, look at the bacteria. The bacteria has many parts, like it has the RNA, DNA inside. It has parts that gives its own energy. It even has arms like this and legs over here. Not that bacteria look all the same, and we're going to look about the structure of the viruses as well. But anyhow, you know, the bacteria is a living thing. Now, quick question. Is the virus bigger or the bacteria bigger? Just in general, if we can generalize, is the virus bigger or the bacteria bigger? You can say, okay, we have some great answers coming in. All right, thank you, Talin, Valeska, Lex, Naomi, for everybody for participating. Okay, so I'll give you the answer. The bigger guy is the bacteria. The virus is like small compared to that. And Beth, you're right, the bacteria is bigger. And I'm just really not using the right proportions, but I just want to get you an idea that the bacteria is much, much bigger than the virus. Now, let's go back in history, because I love looking at history, how things happen, how we discover things. Oh, before we do that, sorry, let's go to how it reproduces, because I think it's a fascinating story because it's not living. So I wanted you to see here right now that there's those spikes, okay? If you see the coronavirus images on the news, they all have spikes, right? So those spikes are going to bind to what those are called the viral receptors. And you have those viral receptors on your body. And they're like basically a door with a keyhole, and you insert the key, and there you go. You can enter. That's supposed to be a key, guys. The door. So that it looks like that, and our body is actually there to receive the virus already. But I want you to just see this video, because I think they did an amazing job explaining this in a very simple fashion. Are you guys ready? Here it is. The only problem is that it looks so small. The only problem is that it is so small. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I did not intend to make it this small, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you to this link, and I'm going to just make sure that you can see it in the bigger, and I invite you to do the same search that I'm going to do. Okay, here it is. You search NPR virus reproduction. I watched like so many videos to find the one that makes the most sense for all of you. Now, obviously, when I do that, sometimes it doesn't want to pull out what I am trying to find that's already embedded. Okay, apologize, guys. Sometimes things happen, right? Oops. Okay, so if I cannot find it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to still play it on my small screen over here, and then we can discuss it together. Sorry, I apologize about that today.
So let's say that this guy has the flu, could be any flu, and here's a droplet from his sneeze containing, if we move in and take a really close look, you see each one of those little purple things is a virus. And there are a lot of viruses floating through the air, some of which go inevitably up this unfortunate man's nose. How did that guy feel when you ripped off half of his face?
It was interesting because we did it while he was sleeping.
Okay, I am talking with medical illustrator David Belinsky, who designed this video for Xyrus, a research company. So here comes the virus, and it's going to land on one of this guy's throat cells. So notice it's covered with little yellow knobby things. You call these keys, right?
Those are the keys.
Yeah, this is a key, this is a key, this is a key. Okay, if the keys on this virus happen to fit the locks, which are those little purpley stick-uppy things on the surface of the cell, if there is a match, cell, watch this, welcomes the virus in. And what's this?
This is the welcoming committee. They all interlock with each other, and they pull this membrane down into the cell.
And down it goes deeper and deeper, and that welcoming structure disperses, and the virus capsule bursts, and out comes the secret recipe for how to make more viruses in those little noodly things. So this unsuspecting cell has been tricked into guiding these virus recipes right into its own command center, the nucleus. So in they go.
And they are immediately recognized by this big pink molecule, which is a mini factory.
Yeah, what is it doing?
It threads the nuclear material, the instruction code of the virus, through one hole, and out another hole comes a brand new instruction set.
So it's a copying machine making copy after copy after copy of virus recipes, which then go out of the nucleus to little chefs, those blue peanutty things. They cook up proteins that go back into the nucleus where they are reassembled into baby viruses, and then out they go. They get covered up and head to the surface where they get new keys, and then boom, here they come. This is an eruption of virus after virus after virus after only one virus entered the cell. But how many came out? Well, millions. So if one virus can produce 1 million babies and do it again and again and again, how come this guy doesn't just drop dead, I don't know, in like 10 minutes?
Well, because you have about 100 trillion cells.
I see. So 1 million viruses is just a drop in the bucket when you have 100 trillion cells. And anyway.
All right, so I just wanted to show you this video because I really did, they simplified it so well. But I think the key to understand here is that, our body can create, as they said, 1 million of them. But our body has 100 trillion cells. So even if you had the flu, usually your body fights it and we are okay generally, right? However, in this case of what we have right now, our body is not doing an awesome job as fighting the infection. But I just want to show you how it reproduces. So if we go back to how a bacteria reproduces, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, this process they call the binary fission, it is very different, okay? Now, I want you to think back to what I told you about the board, the question types, because I want to tie it back together. I want you to start imagining, if you have a question on the board examination, it is probably going to be in session 1, not really in session 2, because this does not look like a case study, right? This is not community or health either. So you're going to talk about general session, which is the general science session, and you're going to see maybe questions that are related to, which of the following is true related to virus replication. So I want you to start imagining questions in your head. And I don't have found 1 million questions here, but you can start just thinking as the exam creator. And here I want to just show you how they actually did discover this virus. Well, that was back in 1800s, and they saw this mosaic tobacco leaf, and they said, this one is sick, infected. Something's wrong in here. But they just didn't really know what to do or what it was. So they took some water out of, they took a bunch of leaves and they extracted some liquid out of the leaves. Okay, it's like juicing. So they put this in this very fine filtration, the best that they could have in the 1800s. And there you go. They collected some liquid and they injected back into a healthy leaf, and they found out that this was also started to become infected. That's how they started to think there's something so small in here that they could not even see with their eyes or even a microscope, because for the virus to be seen you need an electronic microscope, and they didn't have those capacities back in the days. Now we do. So they discovered that there was something so small, and they wanted to call it the virus. Now virus, this is just a pop quiz for fun, means this word in Latin. Anybody want to take a guess? Is P something something S something something. It's a word in Latin that kind of means, being dangerous or being bad. Anybody want to take a guess what that word could be? So again, the virus means in Latin this word that starts with the P, and that means something is dangerous. So if you want to try, we have Stephanie that has the correct answer. Thank you, Abe. And thank you, Carol, for saying you can search flu attack, how a virus invades your body. So guys, if you want to do that, you do that on YouTube. Thank you very much. So yes, it is a poison. So in Latin, virus means poison, because it's bad, right? In this case, it killed this tobacco plant. However, it's not all that bad because it can be useful. Why? So here, this is the sea or the lake, and you see there's some blue and green areas sometimes on the surface, and they're called the blue-green algae. Now, those blue-green algae are just floating. You've probably seen it in the lake or wherever you have traveled, on the water. Now, sorry guys, I'm going to try to mute some of you as well. If you can mute yourself, that would be awesome as well, so we can all have a better audio quality. Thank you again. So if you see over here again, there is the blue-green algae, and the blue-green algae is, covered by this thing that's called the cyanobacteria. So on this thing, you have those bacteria. However, on those bacteria, you have the virus. Okay, so this virus and bacteria, well, this produces about 50% of the world's oxygen. I mean, that's a lot, right? What about the virus? Virus is also helpful in creating about 5% of the world's oxygen. So whatever you're breathing right now is also contributed by this virus and also by the bacteria. So I'm just trying here to tell you that the virus can be useful sometimes, and I'm just talking about the human's perspective, because we can't say all viruses are useful. It depends on who we are talking to, because in some animals, this cyanobacteria virus invades them, they are at risk, they're in danger. But for us humans, we need oxygen. Well, this is good, right? And let's continue though. Sometimes it's neutral. If you see here, there are some areas here. This is a lettuce. And I don't know if you anybody here grow their own plants at home? I really don't have it's really not my talent, first of all. Kim, yes, you do. That is great. Anybody grew lettuce? Like, have you tried that? So sometimes when we have plants, they have this. And Kim, have you seen things like that growing on your lettuce, some brown spots? Shilpa, you said yes as well. So, I mean, I can't say all those brown spots are caused by this, but this is called the mosaic lettuce virus. So those brown spots are deadly for the lettuce. Okay, and Kim, you're saying you're seeing bugs as well. Yeah, so what I'm trying to go to here is that it is deadly for the lettuce. However, if we humans ingest this thing, what is going to happen? We eat the lettuce, nothing. It just goes right through our system and out. Nothing's going to happen. So in this case, it's neutral. So let's talk about the coronavirus. Well, the coronavirus is neutral to, for example, the dog, the fish. It doesn't do anything for them. It does something to us in our respiratory system. But for some reason, your cats, your dogs are fine with the coronavirus. So that's what I wanted to tell you, that depending on how you look at it, it can be neutral as well. But obviously what we have here is not neutral, is deadly, right? Poisonous, just like the word virus says. So question, guys, COVID-19, is this a disease name or is this a virus name? And again, I just want you to try. I'm not here to judge you, to grade you, anything. I'm just here to try to help you pass the board examination. And I know some of you, are struggling with motivation, right? I mean, sometimes you feel like I came so far. I was just about to take my examination. I was just about to graduate. And why does this have to happen to me, right? And I know it feels terrible. I know you probably feel like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to you. But I promise, this will pass. And just saying that it will pass is not enough. But I think your professors, your friends, myself, we all trying the best we do. And I think we're going to come out of this stronger with infection control. We are going to be pro at it. We are going to be better as a community and as a dental professional. When you're going to start working, guys, you're going to be a lot more protected than we were 6 months ago already. So I asked whether it was a disease name and a virus name. We had a mix of everything, and the answer is D. It's a disease name, guys. So we're going to learn what the actual virus name is and the disease name is. Thank you. So where does this word corona come from? And Shilpa, you have the right answer. Thank you. We're going to get to that soon. This is the coronavirus. And again, we have to see it in the electronic microscope. It is tiny, 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 tiny. This is the corona of the sun. This is the outside layer that's bursting. They call this the corona. And also this crown, they call this the corona as well. So for those reasons, the shape gave it its name, that is the corona. Now, let's look at the coronavirus, because the coronavirus is a large family of virus. It's like, what's a common family name that you can think of? Anybody want to just help me out here? Jones, perfect. Thank you. Smith, perfect. All of those are. Okay, so if we say it's a Jones, well, there's Jones this, Jones that. There's, let's say Elizabeth, there's Mary, there's Kim, there's Colette, there's Sharon, there's Marlene. All of those are Jones. So Jones is, I would think of it as a family name, which is kind of, what I think of the coronavirus, because each type of coronavirus is more like your first name. It has hundreds of family members, inside the coronavirus. But it has been circulating among animals. So it didn't really came to us until recently. It just is usually among animals. The camel would give it to the camel, for example. Only 7 types came to us humans. Only 7 types are causing us problems among the hundreds. So, if you think about the Joneses family, there are only a few of them, 7 of them that are, kind of deadly for us. And I don't know if you were around when SARS 2002 happened, and that was mainly in Asia. But, I was there, and SARS of 2002, that was also caused by the coronavirus. MERS 2012, that was also caused by the coronavirus. So actually what's happening right now is not completely new. It's not something that we have never experienced before. We've seen this family already. But right now, what we're experiencing is the sister of the 2002 SARS. They are really, really close. And you're going to see later that the virus names are really, really close as well. So again, I want to just show you that coronavirus is not just one coronavirus right now. It's a whole family that we've seen for a long time. And some of them have already caused problems to us. And you can all find this information, guys, at CDC, NIH, and I want you to really look at sources that you think you can trust, because sometimes, the local newspaper, I don't really sometimes trust their sources, right? So as a student, I want you to just think, where are my best sources? So let's think about now how this goes from one person to another. And the answer, short answer here is droplet. The difference between a droplet and they call the droplet nuclei is the size. So droplet is something that's 20 microns and above. So let's say if this was the droplet, this would be the droplet nuclei. So when we say, when you sneeze, when you talk, there's some things that's coming out of your mouth. So it creates all of those, right? Droplets and droplet nuclei, and they float in the air. But the droplet is heavy. It's like a big ball that is heavy, and it will drop to the floor. So that's why they say stay, at least 6 feet apart from each other. But again, I just want to review a little bit of the definition. So guys, think about your national boards again. What kind of question would they use using this information? It could be about the size. It could be which one would be more infectious. In this case, though, it would be more infectious would be the droplet nuclei because they're the floating little particles that you can't see. So it travels. You don't even have to be in the same room to get it. Your neighbor can cough. You have this ventilation system, this droplet nuclei, the tiny little things can come to you through the ventilation system. So that is, they call it the airborne infection mode, and that is completely deadly. Versus droplets, on a positive note, guys, it's better because it's bigger, so they drop to the floor and they're less likely to float around. Okay, so I wanted just to quickly view again, those definitions. Any questions on this? Any questions on aerosol? I know we talk always about aerosol now, how we are going to contain this, right? I don't know if you have some solutions at your school, if you have some solutions in your dental office. What do you think you're going to start doing that you didn't do before in order to contain, whether it's the droplet or the droplet nuclei? Anybody want to take some guesses or some suggestions here? Marlene is saying high-speed evacuation. That is for sure. And that's you, Professor Melendez. Thank you for being here. Extra or air purifying system too. That is great. And I think we need a better filtration just for a building in general if there was a dental office. Avoid the use of Cavitron. That's a big thing right now. We need to use a lot more hand instrumentation until we feel safer. We understand what is going on, how we are going to really contain the things that are floating around. N95, that's another good solution. So N95, you can see here, is called 95 because it filters 95%, okay, of the aerosol down to things that are as small as 0.3 microns. Okay, so that is called N95. Now another question, guys. I'm going to tell you. So there's things that are called N99. So I'm trying to draw with my finger. That's why it's so terrible. There's some things that are called N99, and there are even some things that are called N100, N100. So as you can see, it does a lot more the filtration. So I just wanted to review here how it can be transmitted. So one more thing over here is that when you talk about droplets, it is considered direct infection. It's not like when it's like blood, when you touch a patient with HIV that is bleeding and you put it directly in your blood system because you had an open wound, that's kind of direct. Droplets is not exactly direct in our mind because even if I was sneezing, I'm not touching the other person. However, droplet is also considered direct because there's no in the middle thing, okay? There's no in the middle surface or animal or anything that is going to help the transmission. So I just want you to remember here, just by definition, droplet is part of what is considered a direct transmission mode. Are we clear on this? I just want to, quickly just overview that because I think it's important to understand the category. Perfect. Now let's look at this image. I think it did an awesome job here. This is droplet. As you can see, drops to the floor. And here the aerosol. So the droplet nuclei float. As you can see here, measles is a problem because it keeps floating versus Ebola, just like we have with the coronavirus, it drops. So the infection rate is lower at least. Now, we have a question from Alyssa, and I think everybody can try to answer it together. And I'd love this conversation because there's no right and wrong answer right now. So if you have your clinical boards, you're asking Alyssa, how clinical boards will be if I am taking my clinical boards in June 2nd, I won't be allowed to use Cavitron, question mark. So you're asking if you are allowed to use Cavitron. Anybody want to chime in on that? Alyssa is, I think, concerned that she won't be able to use the Cavitron. Any answers on that? Anybody who can help her understand what can and cannot be done? And thank you, Abby. You're saying there's nothing out yet. Exactly, Professor Melendez. And I agree. There's no guideline that says what you can and cannot do, honestly, which is a little bit of the problem, But, and thank you, Professor Tressner, for being here as well. So I think the quick answer to is that you are still allowed to use the Cavitron. Nobody tells you that you cannot. You have to be comfortable and your patient has to be comfortable. You have to protect yourself the best way you can. So does the patient, okay? The patient also needs to wear, for example, eyewear, okay? Make sure that you do a background check, not a background check, but on their medical history. Okay, make sure you ask those questions that we get asked often. Have you been coughing recently? Have you had any fever? If you have a thermometer, you say it's just good for all of us. Here's a thermometer. Let's just take your temperature, for example. So Armani, you're saying though, they're saying we need an N95 mask for Cavitron. And Armani, I would like to ask you, I think on behalf of everybody here, that, for the N95 mask, is that mandatory right now yet for the clinical board examination? And I want to see what state you're from, because I think the guidelines are also, your state is governing the state clinical examination as well. So you have to follow also those guidelines. And some dental practices are saying use only the N95 and use of high-speed suction. And I think high-speed suction is a must now in any scenario, not anymore just a slow-speed suction. And Shilpa, ADA has a toolkit. You are correct. ADA came just really recently, I think it's even days old, with some new recommendation with high-speed suction that we have to do that. And I don't think they said you can't use Cavitron anymore, things like that, because I don't think that's exactly what they do. But the ADA and the CDC, they're all coming up with some guidelines for us to practice. Okay, so again, it depends on the state, so I would look at that as well. Thank you, Shilpa. Yeah, the ADA actually was pretty fast, I would say, in responding to our questions. So great. I love this conversation. Professors, students just jumping in and really collaborating together. So here I want you to see the spikes. Okay. Also the envelope. Remember we talked about those? Now, I have a question for you guys. Is the virus, does the virus has color, yes or no? Does the virus has color, yes or no? I just, we have some yes coming up over here. Anybody want to share? Sharon, thank you. Colette, Fiorella. Anybody who wants to just take a guess? Okay, the short answer to this is no. The virus does not have any color. The reason is because the virus is so small that it does not even reflect light. Like our color, the way our eyes work is because light is reflecting, bouncing off a surface, but it is so small that you cannot even see that. Okay, so for this reason, the virus does not have a color. Now, what you see over here is just arbitrary, saying the scientists say, I want to make this yellow because I think we would, see the spikes better if we do that. So all the different types of drawing that you see out there, the structure would be accurate, but the colors are just arbitrary. Your color can look different than your friend's color, okay? So that was the short answer to that. Now, disease name versus virus name, and I know some of you already provided the awesome answer to this, but the real name of the virus is SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 is the actual name of the type of coronavirus that's happening right now. So if I could say coronavirus is like the Jones, the Smith, the family name, SARS-CoV-2 is actually the first name. In my mind, that's how I would think of that analogy I would like to make. Now, remember I said SARS in 2002 was the sister of what's happening right now? Well, this sister was called SARS-CoV-1. Do you see how similar it is? So that's why they give it this name, SARS-CoV-2. So again, what's happening right now is not completely new. It was a big problem in 2002 already. Unfortunately, it did come back causing even more problems. But I don't know, for some reason, I'm a little bit more optimistic about the vaccine because, we have seen this already. So here, just HIV versus AIDS. Just a quick question about virus name versus disease name. Is this a virus name or this is a disease name? HIV, is this a virus name or a disease name? I just want you to guys just take a guess just for fun again. I'm not here to judge you or to tell you you're wrong. I just want to understand what I have to clarify. Okay. Perfect. All of you got it completely correct. Tanya, Yusamir, Stephanie, Valeska. It is a virus name. Measles, though, is this virus name or the disease name? Measles versus rubiola. It is the disease name. Thank you, guys. You guys are awesome. Taline, Sharon, everybody for participating. So you got that right. So I want you to also thank in the board examination. Yes, this is very, very, very small information, but you still need to know that, okay? Now the origin, ooh, what animal is this? I mean, this animal is super. It is super in what sense? Because it has this immunity that is incredible. The bat, right? I mean, it is a super animal and it lives in cluster, like they all together and they spread the virus, the bacteria, everything really easily. However, they have this crazy repair system as well. So we are trying to understand, science are trying to understand why is the bat so awesome? And the short answer to that is we don't know. So we're trying to imitate them. We're trying to be them, but it's impossible right now. So, the answer is the bat. And they are actually transmitting a lot of disease. Okay, it's not just the coronavirus. There have been many incidents where the bats actually transmitted the disease to us. And this is kind of a really quick clip I want to show you about what happens. So anybody have seen this movie though? It's called The Contagion with Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow. There were quite a few famous people in here. Kim, yes? Anybody else? Yes, Kristen? I mean, I've seen it about, I say 2 months ago when this whole thing started to happen. And now I look back at it, I'm like, holy cow, that was really accurate. That was really, really close to what's happening right now. So let's quickly look at, I'm going to just completely spoil for you guys if you haven't seen it. This is the very, very end. All right. So what I wanted to show you over here is that the bat, is the origin of the coronavirus. Although they made the movie, a long time ago, and I don't think they were talking about the coronavirus, but it's a very, very, hypothetical good theory over here. what was it? There's one thing here that they could have done or someone could have done in order to stop this. There was one thing that went wrong over here. Thank you, Shilpa. There was just one thing, right? Anybody want to take a guess as well? You know, you already said it, Shilpa. But I mean, and, and is that Professor Singh? I don't want to, but just from looking at the name here, I just want to, because I know I talked to many of you guys over here actually that I see in the chat. So yes, wash your hands. Oh my God, this famous song, wash your hands. If the chef washed his hands, the whole thing could have just not even be a problem to begin with, right? So this leads us into understanding a little bit more about infection control. Okay, so let's talk about this. Infection control, PPE. Now, I know we started to talk a little bit more about the PPE, but I want you to see here is that face shield has always been there, actually, in the CDC guideline. And this is StudentRDH review, but, you know, we take it directly from the CDC and simplify the information for you to pass the boards. But as you can see here, face shield was always here. So anybody who is here in the chat is thinking, I think I'm going to get a face shield now, even in my office, or, you know, I want to just be extra prepared to get some face shield myself. You can put yes or no in the chat. I want to understand how you are feeling about this, because me, I'm going to get some. If nobody gives it to me, I'm going to get some, right? I mean, so it's a little bit of investment, but, you know, it's nothing compared to what it can protect me. Tanya, awesome. Can you tell us how you got it? You know, I think there's a lot of information of where you can get it. A lot of companies are making it. You know, if you have one best practice, one that you like to use, I'm not here to do any advertisement. That would be great. And you're saying, oh, your school kit through the UCLA. Awesome. Okay. It's great that your school is preparing you for that. I want you to also see this. Okay. Eyes, nose, and mouth are mucous membranes. So the mucous membrane is the moist surfaces you have on your face. That is going to be the entry point for the virus, the coronavirus right now. And thank you, Tanya. You're saying that it was a Univet, a nice one for $22. Thank you. So those mucous membranes. So this is what I want you to think. And, you know, myself, sometimes I use wear the mask when I go outside. So I do a nice job trying to protect my own face. And CDC recently said you should wear the mask. So if it was my face, okay, I cover my nose and my mouth over here. But, you know, sometimes I forget to wear my glasses. And this is also an entry point. This is mucous membrane. So, you know, all of this that we do in dentistry, right? Eyewear is crucial, as a crucial part of PPE. Is not just because you want to protect your eyes against like sharps or things that might fly in your eye, you know, that might damage it, but it could also be from the virus. For example, we're trying to protect ourselves right now. And there's a little bit more that we can do, such as wearing things that are fitted here in our neckline and in also in your wrist. Okay, obviously I think you know how to just take your clothes off by just rolling it inside out, by just touching only the strings of the mask, for example. And I'm sure you go nuts, you know, when someone in the groceries just touching their gloves and their mask at the same time and just taking it off and on, and it just drives me nuts as well, right? Because we know it's not going to be protective. You know, you're contaminating your own mask if you do that. Anybody shares that with me? You know, sometimes we see people and we're like, oh my God, you know, I need to show you how to put this on. And I need to show you that you cannot reuse your mask again and again, right? You know, what is the worst thing that you have seen? You can put it on the chat just for fun. So I want you to just show you here, though, there's something called the surgical mask, though. That's different than the I-95, because the surgical mask was used mainly to protect yourself from splatter. It was not designed from the beginning to filtrate all the air. As you can see, we have some entry points right on top, even though you're trying to fit it around your nose, right on the sides, you know, everywhere. So an N95 does at least a good job. The only thing is that it needs to kind of suction on your face. So when you create the suction, you know, you are kind of, you know, left with the mark that says I wore an N95 all day long over here. But at least, you know, it's a much better filtration than what we have right now with our surgical mask. Thank you. And we have some fun things on the chat today. Okay. Oh, yes, they're wearing a mask, but it's like sitting right below their nose. Yeah, that would be really terrible to watch. Hanging on their rearview mirror of the car, meaning they're using it again and again and again, touching it with their contaminating hands. They touch all the food. Okay, I totally get that again. And then people eating French fries in the cars with gloves on it. What's the point of gloves, right? So yes, we have all of those. And, at the same time, I'm optimistic that at least wash your hands message really has been there for everybody now. Everybody knows. So let's go to wash your hands place, okay? So you have to wash your hands. But what about hand rubs, alcohol-based hand rubs? It needs to be, and over 60 to 95%. When it's below that, it's not effective. Also, when I go to the grocery store, sometimes they give me mandatory hand wash, hand alcohol, no, not even alcohol, who knows, hand sanitizers to use. And sometimes I'm looking at it, I'm like, you diluted this thing. It's not going to work if you dilute it. I still do it because I still want to go to the groceries, and I don't want to be kicked out. But you have to follow the guideline that needs to be above a certain concentration. Now, this alcohol hand rub, you cannot put it, it's not going to be effective even if you had a layer of sweat. And they call it no visible soil, but sweat is also one of them. Because if my hands were sweaty and I put some things on, it's not going to do the job of penetrating where it needs to penetrate, okay? So, that's why hand washing is still the gold standard. It is still the one that you have to use. And this is how hand washing works.
Soap absolutely annihilates viruses like the coronavirus. Here's how. This is what a virus like coronavirus looks like. It's a bit of material surrounded by a coating of proteins and fat. Viruses easily stick to places like your hands, but when you rinse your hands with just water, it rushes right over the virus. That's because that layer of fat makes the virus behave kind of like a drop of oil. You can see it happening in this demonstration. Oils are just liquid fats. What happens when you pour oil into water? It floats. It doesn't mix. But add soap, and suddenly that fatty oil dissolves into the water. That's because inside, soap has two-sided molecules. One end of the molecule is attracted to water, the other end to fat. So when the soap molecules come in contact with water and fat, these dual attractions literally pull the fat apart, surrounding the oil particles and dispersing them through the water. Let's go back to our coronavirus molecule with that layer of fat holding everything together. When it interacts with soap, bam, that fat gets pulled out by the soap. Soap literally pulls apart and demolishes these viruses. And then the water rinses the harmless leftover shards of virus down the drain. But, and you know where I'm going with this, it takes time for this effect to happen. 20 seconds to be specific. To show why, we ordered this lotion that mimics viruses in their fatty layers. It glows under a UV light. If you just rinse your hands under regular water, nothing comes off. If you wash with soap for just 5 seconds or 10 seconds, your hands are still covered. The virus is still there, able to get you and others sick. But 20 full seconds, now the soap is actually destroying the virus.
Okay.
Hand sanitizer works too.
So I just wanted to show you this video just to show you the science of actually how hand washing works, because of the envelope that we discovered earlier where the DNA RNA is. This part is going to pull apart by the soap and water. Okay, any questions on this? I think the video did an awesome job explaining this in 2 minutes. So I know earlier I said we're going to discover the 4 different shapes of virus. Let's do it together over here. So remember the first one that we had that was like the gem and the legs, like the squid thing? It's called the head and tail. And the head and tail usually affects a bacteria, okay? So you don't really need to worry about that right now because, the going into the shape is it's very detailed. However, I think it's still fun to do. So this thing that is called the envelope. That's what we have with the coronavirus. There's another type that's kind of look like a soccer ball. So it's made of many different little triangles. I'm doing a terrible job drawing it, but basically of soccer balls. And it's called the icosahedral shape. And another one looks like a foam roller. And it just looks like a tube. So you have the 4 different types of viruses, and you can see that in the beginning I told you that first picture, there's a, it's just not the right thing, and that would be because the virus we have looks like this. It does not look like the head and tail. So that was that. And I want to go now to disinfection. So now disinfection, I want you to see that it is different than sterilization. When we have when we run through, sorry, I'm trying to read it and write and talk at the same time. If you have your instruments in the machine, that is sterilizing. However, disinfection, we usually use the spray or wipe. What is disinfection? Disinfection is that you are killing some microorganism, but not everything. While sterilized is like 0% of nothing. You have left with nothing. Everything is awesome, great. You killed everything. But disinfectants mean you're only killing what you think is really needed here. So let's talk about the different levels. And I'll tell you very honestly that when I was a student, I looked at this and I say, oh my God, there's so many different types. Why do I have to know this? Can I just clean my bed? Can I just clean my chair, right? But there's a reason for that. So low level is what we use in order to clean surfaces. Now the surfaces, we call them environmental surfaces. Anybody want to take a guess of what an environmental surfaces could be in your dental chair? Anybody can make a guess? That could be also in your practice if you are working already at your school. Any environmental surfaces in your bay. And I can start with maybe saying, okay, Beth, you said the floor. That is awesome. Floor is something that, is not really related to the patient, but that's a surface, right? Handrest, awesome. The countertop, perfect. The chair, the computer, there's so many surfaces that you can think of, right? So you're going to use low or intermediate, but the difference is here is that tuberculosis. So in low disinfectant, you do not kill tuberculosis, versus in intermediate, you are killing tuberculosis. So generally what you use at the school or in private practice is this intermediate level. Okay, floor, yes, maybe, it's more like low level. But generally, the wipes we have, the spray would be in intermediate level. When you talk about high level, it's more like the cold sterilization, where you put your instrument and you put the sterilant over here and let it sit for 10 hours. So that's different. You would not use this high level onto your chair. You're not going to use it for cleaning your computer keyboard, okay? Thank you everybody for participating in that. So I just wanted to clarify what disinfection and sterilization, the variants and also the definitions were, because I don't want you to be confused when you go to the examination. Read every word really, really carefully. What's going to happen is that this is about tips. When you go to the examination, you're going to see 350 questions. And if you can assume, each question has, let's say, 30 words, you have 10,000 words coming at you. So it's easy to miss very important information because we're tired. We're just going to just go way too fast. But you got to go slow, okay? Because when you speed too much, you might change disinfection to sterilization in your head just automatically. Again, just because you're tired. If you read it in different circumstances, in a very calm, peaceful, just natural circumstances that you have maybe at the school and in your home right now, you might get a higher score. But just because of the stress of the examination, I'm going to tell you that I've seen almost every student go way too fast, okay? Whether they use StudentRDH or anything else, I want you to just slow down. This thing about the hare and the tortoise, who wins in the end? It's definitely not the one that went too fast. So slow and steady, that's what I want you to do. And see how, it's easy to miss the little information if you, in your head, sometimes make up words or like change word because, again, you're tired. You read intermediate instead of low. You read high instead of low, okay? I just want to try to help you prevent those mistakes. Okay, so now this is a really, I think, interesting chart. And I'm going to take you here, and this is, you can just find it on your own as well, but maybe I can actually copy and paste it for all of you over here. So what you're going to do, you're going to go over here and you're going to export this, and you can, they keep updating it. So it was last updated April 30th. So you'll be able to just get this PDF. And when you have it, I want you to just open it. You can do it later. Okay, I'm going to do it with you right now. You can still see it, right? So you can see there are some active ingredients, the product name, the company name, what virus it is killing. And you can see there are many different types. So let's do the search together. What is a disinfectant you use a lot in your dental setting? Can you give me a brand name or anacavicide? Okay, awesome. Anybody else use cavi? Okay, beta. Okay, we have some virus as well. Yeah, cavicide. Okay, seems like a lot of you use cavicide. So let's quickly do a search for that. Okay, Optum is also one of them. So I'm going to say cavi. And what you can see over here is a cavicide 1 that has 3 ingredients over here. Do you see anything about the coronavirus over here? Do you see anything about the coronavirus here? No, right? It's just the other viruses and not the coronavirus. So at the end, maybe this is not effective, and it's not. What about Cavi Wipe 1? It's not. What about now Cavicide Bleach? No. What about here, the original Cavicide? Yes. Do you see something about the coronavirus in this case? Yes, you see, right? So I want you to just look at this chart, and you can see it by the company name, by the different name that they give it to the specific disinfectant. See which ones are effective against the coronavirus. Okay, so this is a very detailed sheet, and I think it's very helpful because again, we can use Cavi Wipe 1 all day long and still it will not be effective against the coronavirus. Okay, so again, we need to be, because I think we right now wearing the mask, trying to just disinfect everything, we're living on this under this blanket of, I would say, sometimes an illusion that it is effective, but it says it right here, that specific compound was not effective against the coronavirus, while some of those do. Okay, so if you have to just change the thing that you have, go to original Cavi Wipe versus the what they call the Cavi Wipe 1, do so. Even in Lysol, for example, if you have Lysol, well, look exactly at which one it is, and you have to see the active ingredients as well. Okay, so Colette is having a question. How do you tell which Cavicide you have? Okay, so this is exactly linking to my next slide. Thank you very much for asking that question. So I want you to just see here, this is just the label that I have from the back. And I just took, this is a screenshot that's floating on the internet, but these are the 2 ingredients. Okay, this is the QA and isopropyl. That is the original Cavi Wipe. However, when you see Cavicide 1, you can see there are 3 ingredients here, and as you can see in the chart of the EPA, they have listed all the different ingredients. So I think, Colette, rather than being tricked by the name or the name of the company, you look at the ingredients and seeing how there's a match over here. Does that help you, Colette? So I wanted just to share this with you because, again, I'm thinking back and I'm thinking to myself, well, what we used to use at the office or at the school was like Cavicide 1, again, which is different than the original Cavi. Perfect. So we are about 15 minutes from finishing here. So let's talk about epidemic versus pandemic versus endemic. This is going to community oral health, and the reason I want to talk about this is because I want just to show you a little bit of the definition that sometimes it might look like, oh, this is too detailed when you're studying community, but it is all relevant to what we're doing right now. So already, pandemic, meaning that is big. It's like big pan, frying pan. It's everywhere. However, when you put this word global, it means global everywhere in the world, because it could be also a national pandemic. Okay, when you say epidemic, means that it is in a one area. You can locate it. Endemic means, okay, this is the difference. So it is at a predictable rate, meaning that you know exactly, generally saying this, like 100,000 people every year in the United States can get, the flu or malaria every year. It's a problem in the country. So you know what this is going to happen. That is the endemic, okay? Thank you. Stephanie, you're saying pan like Pangea. Can you explain a little bit more, please? Maybe I'm not getting here the Pangea, but thank you for sharing though. Okay, please help us explain a little bit. Okay, so one really important concept here is called the herd immunity. Anybody heard about it? Herd immunity. Yes, right? Okay, I will try to explain this to you. Oh, Pangea, that's when all countries are joined at one point. Thank you. So that means it's like white. I think that's what you're trying to say. Thank you for sharing that. That's perfect. That's definitely a memory technique for everybody here. Good. And it's awesome to have really smart faculty, students especially. I'm just so proud of you when you come up with your own memory techniques, when you come up with your own solution. That's exactly what we're looking for. So here, maybe this is what we are at right now. We have people like maybe you and me that are not immune, that didn't get the disease. There are people who got the disease and are immune, and there are people who are, in danger of just contaminating everybody. But we want to get to this, which is called the herd immunity. So as you can see, there is a guy or a person who is infectious, and the person wants to transmit it to this person over here who never had immunity. In the middle, there's this blanket of people, and the blanket of people is going to help stop the disease, because this wanted to get over here, but this person was already immune, so it just died over there. So it cannot continue over here. It is impossible. So that's when they talk about herd immunity. You need about 70, 75% of the community to all be immune, so that sometimes you would have people who are not immune. But who are those? Maybe immunocompromised patients. Maybe you have elderlies. They don't necessarily need the vaccination, or maybe they're not good, their bodies, they're not healthy enough to get it. So as a community, if we have 70% of the people who are immunized, somehow you are good. That's what herd immunity is. And that's what we need to get at, whether, it's like just getting it by just getting it somehow, or by getting immunization. Now, this is a very important concept in vaccination. We have 4 different types of adaptive immunity. Adaptive immunity means that you didn't get it at birth. Natural means you got it at birth. So I want you to see this word naturally versus artificially. Artificially means you got a syringe. Someone gave you the shot. Naturally means you did not get the syringe. Active, I want you to see the next item, which is active versus passive. Active means that you had to get the answer. Passive means that you did not have the answer yet. Oh, no, sorry, the opposite. Active means that you had to fight for the answer. Passive means that you had to, you were given the answer. You were spoon-fed the answer. So let's put those 2 words together and see how we can combine, we can have 4 different type of immunity. So naturally means you didn't get the injection, but you have to fight for it. Ooh, that's kind of like when you just get the flu and you recovered from it. Nobody gave you the shot and nobody really helped you. You fought it. So that is naturally active acquired immunity. When we talked about naturally passive, just look at the word, break it down, saying, okay, I didn't get a needle and someone gave me the answer already. Who would do that? Well, your mom, okay? Your mom gives to the baby what they actually need to have already. So that happens without getting a needle. Artificially active is when you get a needle, someone give you the needle and you have to fight for the answer. So it is when they give you the virus. So the virus are either dead or weakened, or they're missing some pieces sometimes, and they put it into your body and your body's fighting. You're trying to get some answers. That is active. So you got the needle, you're active. That is artificially active acquired immunity, which is the vaccination. That's what we are trying to get right now. There's something called the artificially passive, meaning you got the needle, you already spoon-fed the answer. Well, when you have Hep B, sometimes when you caught it, there's nothing really that they can do right now. So they are going to just give you this. Okay, so I want you to just, when you are in the board examination, I want you to just break down the words just like I did for you. If you start panicking, if you feel like there's too much information, if you feel like you don't know what to do. Or you can do the opposite. If you say, for example, you got a vaccine, MMR vaccine, what is it? So you think, okay, I got the needle and I had to fight for the answer, right? So our body needed to fight. Our body needed to find the answer, and they need to memorize this. So, I think you understand the concept of you have to break it down, take it slow, guys, again. Just two last things I want to talk about today. We have an animal on the right side. What is that animal? What is this one? It lives in the forest. We have a gorilla, a monkey, very similar, very similar. Primate ape. Okay, what about this? If I give you a C, what would you say? Chimp, chimp, chimp. Thank you guys for participating. I know these are just random questions. So they say back in the days, there was a guy who went hunting for those gorillas or those chimpanzee, and they had an open wound. And when they chased this gorilla or chimpanzee, the blood got into their system through blood contact. And that's how it all started. Well, we don't exactly know. We can't say in the forest in like 1865. We can't say that. But this is what we are suspecting happened because HIV is among those animals. It didn't really come to human yet. But what we really have to know here is what happens when a patient has HIV, especially we have to do an oral, intraoral examination, extraoral examination. Obviously, we're taking the medical history. So now I want you to think about session 2, okay? It's all about case studies. Obviously, you can have questions about HIV in session 1, which is simple questions and answers, science-based. But now I want you to imagine session 2. So if you say, you have a case that said, hey, the patient has HIV, and there's another slide that shows you some sort of like giant ulcer. Okay, so I'm just drawing the palate and an ulcer. That's basically not what it was. You need to put together those information in your head to come to the conclusion, yes, the patient has a giant ulcer because usually our ulcer is this big, but the patient has ulcers this big because the person is immunocompromised. That's what HIV is. The patient does not have the same amount of immunity that healthy patients have, okay? Or you can see, for example, linear gingival erythema, the red line along the gingival margin. If you see a picture of that, go back to the case, go back to what you know about the patient, put them all together. The case studies are really, really long, okay? They give you so much information that you have to actively, it's like Play-Doh, you gotta just massage it together in order to get to the correct answer. So I want you to review what the oral symptoms could be for a patient who has HIV. Now let's think about how you can get it. The only way you can really get it in a dental office is by the syringe. If you give someone the needle, has HIV, and you put directly that needle into you, maybe you get it. Even that you might not get it. But be assured that saliva, air, water, syringe, and even mosquito are not, this is not how HIV spreads. So we are protected by this thing called the standard this word, right? Standard precaution. Sorry, I'm trying to write and talk at the same time. Standard precaution that does, completely protect us from blood-related contamination, okay? So you can be safe here in this environment with the HIV. And I don't know if some of your professors over here have been in the era in the 1980s when you were practicing, you didn't wear gloves and masks and eyewear. Anybody here who lived that era? I'll tell you honestly, I was not there. Yes, Carol, you were there. Was that in the 80s back then, Sharon? Okay. So what was the trigger? Just missed it, Marlene. Okay, Cassandra. Okay. Now looking back at it, I mean, how do you feel about that? Not wearing gloves or mask when you are practicing, not even eyewear? Sharon said, I graduated in 1980. So that's around then when you kind of just started to really wear gloves and masks, especially gloves because of the herpetic whistle I heard, where it feels strange. Um, I can only imagine, because what we're going through right now, I think we're going to look back at the same way we look at, thinking, how do we not wear gloves? And Sharon, don't feel old, please. This is good. Just, sharing in your wisdom. I'm sure your students really appreciate that. So, I think we're going to go back thinking, how do we not even have aerosol control in our operatory? So I think in a good way, I know it feels really, really terrible to not being able to go to school, to not being able to graduate, pass the boards, start working, making money. But I think we're going to come out having a better protocol for everybody to be safer. So thank you, everybody who shared that and who lived through that. And all of you are still here, nice and healthy. So I think there's really hope here. So just the last thing I want to show you here is measles. Measles, those are spots called the Koplik spots. This is characteristic of the measles. The only thing about measles is I want to talk about this guy. Who is this guy? Anybody want to take a guess? There's the map in the back. There's Henry, okay? I would think, okay, I'll give you more clue. Thanks for trying though. Here, there's a boat. Oh, Copernicus, that's a new one that I heard. Okay, I do this quiz sometimes. I think we have an answer over here. Christopher Columbus, right? He traveled all the way to come to North America from European countries. Now, he brought people and animals with him on his boat. The problem with the measles is that it spread because of him. I mean, he didn't do it on purpose. He brought people and animals, and back then in European countries, they had the measles, but he brought the measles with him, not even knowing. Maybe he was immune to it. And the bad thing about measles, that it killed 95% of the native population here. It's not even the population that was killed by mass massacre or weapons. It is the measles that killed 95%, a virus that killed 95% of the North American native culture. Okay, that is, I don't know, sad in a way. That is, very astonishing. And if we look back in history, it's all because he traveled to North America. And I'm not blaming him at all right now. I'm just trying to say that, what we're doing right now, staying home, not trying to travel, that is all related to our historical fact that when we are traveling, when we are seeing other people, we are transmitting this. So what we are doing right now is the right thing, staying at home. I know it feels terrible. I have a very, very small apartment. It is difficult. But again, we have seen in history, and even 1918, when the Spanish flu started to go, well, they really just needed to stop all the trains, for example. So just a little history lesson. And lastly, when this came up, the virus was here, but now it's around here, okay? So this is pretty serious. That's why everything gets pushed back. So I want us to take us time. I want us to be careful. But if you have any question about the boards, I'm always here. And I want you to know that if you ever have StudentRDH as a board examination review tool, I'm going to let you just have it until you pass. I don't care if it's a 1 year, 2 year, just email me saying, hey, Claire, I just need an extension, okay? Please just do that. And if you don't have StudentRDH yet, know that I have a guarantee that you will pass. Okay, that's just my personal guarantee. And also, you can get a refund if you don't pass. I don't want anybody to feel like they wasted their money. And also, if you need an extension until you pass, anytime, just email me. I just want to be as supportive as I can for the schools, the students, our faculty members, so you can pass not just the national boards, but the clinical boards as well if you're taking it, the regional boards as well if you're taking it. So, I hope this was helpful. I just wanted to make sure that, you had some value here, learning a little bit about the board examination, and also being able to understand what the virus is, how it replicates. I want to use the chat if possible, just you can tell me what one thing you learned during the webinar. Is there one thing you learned? And it doesn't have to be grand. It could be anything. Like, I know the virus name is actually SARS-CoV-2 now. You know, you can say, oh, I learned about Columbus. Whatever you have, I would love to just see it on the chat. I want to see what just resonated with you the most. And thank you again, everybody, for being here. Carol, yeah, you need to look up exactly what compounds you are using. You know, Carrie, I think I talked to you before. Yes, Professor Struve, Sharon, Armani, virus name versus disease name, Shilpa, rubella, you're saying is a risk for pregnant mothers. Marlene, Professor Melendez, how many things do not kill, yeah, coronavirus actually, passive versus active. So thank you again, guys, for being here. This wraps up our 1 hour presentation. I want to know if anybody has other questions. If so, you know, you can always ask me via email. You know, I try to do a good job giving you as much information as possible. I don't know if you have the StudentRDH free vitamin series as well. It is completely free, but if I have your email, what I'm trying to say is that I'm trying to keep you updated on everything as much as I can. So feel free to just sign up for the free vitamins, and you can let your junior class know as well. If there's a change in the guideline, you know, when they say we're going to come up with the new perio guideline, you know, I'll tell you exactly what that is. And for our CE credits, this is how you get it, guys. Lisa, sorry, I recorded this. Okay, I do sometimes know that Zoom has a problem. So if you feel like you really need this webinar, let me know. I'll find a way to kind of either share with you. I'm going to upload it privately so you can have a link or something. Okay, and I would love to know how I can share that with you, Lisa. Thank you. Is there a PDF to rewatch the webinar today? Alicia, same thing. If you feel like that's important to you, let me know. I can either share you the link to rewatch it or find a way to send it to you, okay? And this is the code if you are getting the CE credits for professor or practitioners. You go exactly in the link that I have shared with you over here again. I'm just going to keep sharing it. It's going to ask for your basic information. You'll have to enter this code CJVW, and you will have to answer some of the survey questions. That is just very standard for any continuing education, okay? All right, guys, I'm going to leave you here. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to just see if you have any more questions. Otherwise, you know my email, right? So thank you again, and I hope you have an awesome, awesome day. And I wish you the best. You know, if you are taking your examination soon, I hope it doesn't get postponed again. I hope that everything runs as smooth as possible. Okay? Thank you. I'm going to let you go now. Bye.